Hello MCR classes. Upon recommendation of one of your peers, I'm going to do a review video for an upcoming quiz. I'm going to do 6 review problems that will be similar to your quiz problems. So let's get right into it. First problem is going to ask you to find the domain of this function. So if I've got f of x equals negative 4x over negative 2 plus x, remember when we're talking about domain in these functions, we're looking at the bottom. And basically what it comes down to is we can't have a number in for x that will make the bottom 0. It's that simple. So obviously negative 2 plus what will make it 0? Well, that would be positive 2. So we would write it like this. X is a real number, and x cannot equal 2. Then we close our brackets. So it's really that simple. It's just any number that can make the denominator 0, that's the number we're going to exclude by saying x cannot equal this. There could be 2 numbers that might make it 0. X cannot equal this, or x cannot equal this. Alright? So let's look at the second type of problem. In this one, we're going to simplify. And I've got 3x minus 6x squared over 3x. And this one's fairly simple. We're going to basically divide this 3x into both terms. Well, 3x divided by 3x just equals 1. And negative 6x squared divided by 3x will give us 2x. So that's your end result. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. X squared divided by x is x. So that's why we get 1 minus 2x for our answer on that one. So let's move right along. And remember, you can pause these videos as soon as I write these down, and you can try it on your own before I explain it. So I've got 3x squared minus 11x plus 10 over x squared minus 7x plus 10. We're still simplifying, so what we're going to have to do is break both of these trinomials down into their factoring binomials. So for the top, we ask ourselves what 2 numbers? Well, we're going to have to multiply the first term by the last term and we get positive 30. What 2 numbers multiply together to give me positive 30 that will add up to negative 11? Well, 3 times 10 is 30. That doesn't work. 15 times 2 is 30. 15 and 2, no matter what you do with it, whether you add or subtract, isn't going to give you 11. 6 times 5 is 30, and if you add them together, you get 11. For it to be negative, that means that 6 and that 5 both need to be negative. So we write down the first term, write down the last term. And remember, it's negative 6 and negative 5, so negative 6x minus 5x. Let's look at this bottom one. What 2 numbers multiply together to give you 10 that will add up to 7? Well, 5 times 2 is 10. So I've got x minus, x minus 5 and x minus 2. Now we're going to finish breaking down that top. I've got to take a 3x out of this. Remember, we're going to factor by grouping, and I can take a negative 5 out of that. So I've got, well, we'll just do it right here. X minus 2. We take negative 5 out of this, and we get x minus 2. So my 2 factors for the top are 3x minus 5 and x minus 2 over x minus 5 and x minus 2. So the only thing left to do is to cross out common factors. So my end result is 3x minus 5 over x minus 5. All right, so we've got just about 3 more problems to look at. On this one, we're going to need to divide before we simplify. So I've got 6a squared b squared, 6a squared b squared, over a squared minus 4 divided by 3ab squared over a minus 2. All right, so we're really not able to do anything here except this a squared minus 4 we will break down. So 6a squared b squared over, this would end up being a plus 2 and a minus 2. And since we're dividing, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So this is going to flip, so we put a minus 2 on top and 3ab squared on bottom. So I can cross factor before we multiply, or we can just show the multiplication. Let's just show the multiplication for now. 6a squared b squared times a minus 2 over a plus 2 times a minus 2 times 3ab squared. Well, that means that we can cross these two out. So I've got a plus 2 on the bottom. But this 3ab squared I can divide into that top. 6 divided by 3 is 2. A squared divided by a is just a. B squared divided by b squared is just 1. So I'm left with 2a over a plus 2. All right, let's flip the page. Looks kind of blurry. Let me see. Try to get that camera to focus in a little bit better. All right. So let's move on to our next example where we perform an operation. X squared minus 4 over 9. And in this operation, we're going to multiply times x squared minus 6x plus 9 over x squared minus 5x plus 6. So we've got a lot going on here. I'm going to need to break this one down and break those two trinomials down also. So I'm going to move down on this one, especially since I've got plenty of paper left. This breaks down into x plus 2 times x minus 2. Obviously it's over 9. And then we can break these two trinomials down and just show the multiplication. So what two numbers multiply together to give you positive 9 that will add up to negative 6? Well, hopefully you see it's x minus 3 times x minus 3. Because negative times negative gives you positive 9, and negative plus negative gives you negative 6. And now what two numbers multiply together to give you 6 that will add up to negative 5? Well, once again, we're going to have two negative numbers, x minus 3 and x minus 2. All right, so looking at all this multiplication, we're able to get rid of some things, like this x minus 3 and this x minus 3, this x minus 2 and this x minus 2. So that leaves me with just x plus 2 times x minus 3 over 9. And that's our answer. And remember, these two can be in any order. It doesn't have to be x plus 2 first. It can be x minus 3 first. All right, so for our last example, let's look at a word problem where it's saying a company can use the rational function of c of x equals 1.9x plus 10,000 over x to find out the cost for pressing discs. I'll just put it right here for pressing, we'll say CDs. All right. How much does it cost to press 100? How much does it cost to press 10,000? All right. So it's just a matter of putting these numbers in for x and working it out. So if I want to find C of 100, it's 1.9 times 100 plus 10,000 over 100. Well, if you put all that into your calculator, let's see. Of course, my calculator is just my phone. So 1.9 times 100, that should give you 190, and plus 10,000. Of course, that'll be 10,000, 190 over 100. And when you divide that, your cost is 101.9. So 101.9. That's kind of how I look at it if I'm doing it in my head. All right, for B, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to put 10,000 in for x. Which this is a little bit more realistic probably. So we'll do 1.9 times 10,000. That's just going to move your decimal point. And then you get 19,000 plus 10,000 and you get 29,000. And then of course divide that by 10,000 and you get 1.9. So the answer to A is it's $101.9 per disc. And the answer to B is it's $1.9 per disc, or $1.90, or 101.90 is how we should actually write it. All right, so those are the 6 types of questions you'll be looking at for the quiz. I will probably post the quiz tomorrow and make it due next Tuesday. Either way, I hope you guys have a great weekend. And once again, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. I'll do whatever I can to help you. Y'all have a great day.